Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to talk about whether or not it's worth it to pick up the 110 volt welders. I always give a disclaimer when I start these videos. Whenever I talk about any welding related topic, and that is that I'm a DIYer. I've never been to welding school, never welded for a job. I've only ever really welded for myself, for fun. I just try to take care of my own stuff, maintain my own stuff, build my own things when I can, when it makes sense to, and things like that. So this video is probably mostly directed to those kinds of people, your homesteaders, hobby farmers, metal artists. But I just want to make it clear who my target audience is and that I'm not a professional welder of any kind. I'm just a DIYer. Also, before we get into the video, I just want to ask you to go down, give this video a thumbs up. It helps me out with the YouTube algorithms. All right, so just real quick, I want to make sure that I say this. Ideally, you would get a 220 volt welder. They have way more power, way more capability than any 120 volt welder is going to give you, whether it's stick welder, flux core welder, anything like that. In an ideal world, you're going to have a garage or a shop that's set up with a 220 volt plug in it. You're going to be able to purchase a 220 volt welder and be able to weld quite a wide range of materials or material thicknesses. And you won't be limited by the limitations that 110 volt welders have. That being said, there's a lot of people that's just never going to work for. Currently, I'm one of them. I have no access to a 220 volt plug. A lot of your shops aren't going to have it. Or if you're like me in a Connex or a portable building, something that is movable or going to be moved, something like that, then you're probably not going to have access to a 220 volt outlet that you can easily plug into. So that's where these really come in handy for people like me, people in that category. I do just want to add to that real quick that getting a dual voltage machine might really be a great way to go. A lot of them are around that 110 volt price point. Of course, I'm not just talking about like your Millers and your Lincolns and your ESOBs and all those higher quality, more professional welding machines. A lot of these inexpensive Chinese machines, which a lot of those are coming from China too, but a lot of these more less expensive non-name brand machines are going to come in that dual voltage. If you can pick one of those up, I think that'd be a great way to start, especially if you don't have access to 220 volts starting off and you think that eventually you will work your way into that. Yeah, so definitely consider dual voltage machines, 110 or 220 machines if possible. So I'm just going to talk and name off just a short list of things that maybe that a 110 volt machine might do better than a 220 volt machine. It's a very, very short list, and it really just falls on just a couple of things. And that is portability. You're just going to have access to 110 volts in a lot more places than 220 volts. And the portability of a 110 volt machine, you might be able to carry it up a ladder up onto a roof, do some work up on a roof. A lot more simply if you're just doing maintenance stuff. That might be a place where it almost makes more sense to pick up a 110 volt welder depending on what you're welding. And then also just that 110 volt welders, probably generally speaking, are a little bit less expensive than your 220 volt welders. I would just say that because they're less expensive for a lot of us that are, trying to do things on a budget, might be a better option for you anyway. Anytime you're welding anything over 3/16 of an inch, 3/16 of an inch is the thickest I've ever seen any welding machine rated to weld up to, which is not really too terribly thick, which for me, that's nothing I really do. That's why 110 volt welders are perfect for me. By the way, if I keep saying 110 or 120, I'm trying to stick to 110. A lot of people use them interchangeably. I think that if you went ahead and stuck your voltage testers in a socket, you're probably going to get something in between. So when I was preparing for this video, I made a short list of things that I've welded up, and this is definitely not everything I've welded up, but I've had a lot of success with these 110 volt machines, welding up quite a wide variety of different tasks with metal material. And I just kind of listed them out here, and I'm just going to run through them. Fencing, I've welded up metal fencing. I started building an entrance to the 10-acre property that I used to have before I ended up selling it. That was one place where the 110 volt welder did just fine. I didn't need anything more than that, honestly. I welded up a small gate at one of my previous homes where I made kind of a little dog run. Small implements. I've welded together, I think up to this point, 3 different little implements. I'm going to be honest with you, none of them are ground engaging implements. It is a lot of thinner material stuff. Basically, it was a 3-point trailer moving attachment for my tractor, small boom pole and which is, you know, kind of like a 3-point mounted crane roughly. And then also a carry-all. I just built basically a box to put firewood, chainsaws, things like that into, to pull behind my tractor. Like I said, I built small implements, and these 110 volt welders I've got do everything I need them to do. So just here in the shop alone, you can see some of them here in the video. I welded up these shelves. Great thing to use a 110 volt welder for. You know, just like simple fabrication, custom things that you're, you know, doing just like this. I could probably try and name some off, but just things like that. Simple fabrication projects like welding up these shelves. Metal material racks and carts, so right outside of my shop here. I've got a material rack. I know that other people have other names from, but on the bottom, basically, I just have all my pipe that I'm going to use to, you know, build various things here at this new 2-acre property I purchased. And the next step up, I've got some wood posts and rebar, basically for wood fencing. Then above that, I think I've got a lot of my square tubing, like fabrication material for small fabrication projects, things like that. I built a headache rack for my truck. I think even if you're building a lot bigger, heavier duty one than the one that I built, these things would do just fine. I built a winch mount that I can insert into the stake pockets on my trailer, pull stuff up into my trailer if I need to. Small ATV repairs, I've welded some little engine mounts back onto ATVs. I've got a little ATV welding job to do here in a little bit. Probably won't film it. Then I've welded together like tools or like custom parts and things like that. I can't think of anything in specific that I've made, but I definitely know I've done it. Trailers, I had one of the leaf spring brackets that was welded to the bottom of the trailer brake, and I was able to weld that back. Held all the way up until I sold that trailer. And then like trailer fenders, I welded some trailer fenders onto a trailer. Just various things. Like this is just a small limited list of so many different things that you can use a 110 volt welder for that they're perfectly capable of doing, right? So just a lot of your general fabrication, general projects around the house, around the farm, homestead, things like that. You know, if you're not really in industry, just like doing things for yourself, generally speaking, 110 volt welder is going to do the job for you, as they've done for me. I can honestly say up to this point that nothing I've ever welded together has broken. No weld has ever broken that I can think of. That's not to say that some of this stuff won't eventually break and I have to weld it back up, but up to this point, I'm good. Yeah, so I mean, 110 volt welders, really just the limitation is being able to weld a fully penetrated weld into a very thick material, thicker than 3/16 of an inch. There's honestly just so many jobs that 110 volt welders are going to safely and effectively get done for you. So just to summarize real quick, 110 volt welders are not perfect for everything, but there's a lot of jobs that they're absolutely acceptable, perfectly fine for. Basically, if you know that you're going to be welding over 3/16 of an inch a lot, you need to get a 220 volt machine. 110 volt welders are great, and I definitely think they're worth picking up for a variety of reasons. Really, general fabrication projects they're going to work perfectly fine for. So thanks everyone for watching. I hope to see you in the next video. If you haven't given the video a thumbs up, make sure you do that. Also, click subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you in the next one.